Very nice to see everyone. We'll get started and see if anybody else comes in. I'll open with a little bit about myself. My day job, I'm Vice President Operations at Direct Avenue. We're a performance marketing agency. We specialize in linear television and OTT advertising. So anything with a phone number or URL or some kind of response mechanism, we'll buy that media and then we track the results. And I'm the primary dashboard author there. I've been heavily involved in the Tableau community since 2019. I've been to conferences since 2015, but really started talking to people and getting out there right before the pandemic happened. And then once I built some confidence, we were locked down, but I kept at it. And here I am today, leading the San Diego group. Most recently, it was named Tableau Next 2023. And Adam Miko, the last couple of years, has written about people in the community that aren't ambassadors or visionaries that have an impact in the community. So that's a great honor for me.
That's not to interrupt, but that's a big deal. Within the community itself, that is a big deal to be recognized, and you've done well, Luigi.
Well, I really appreciate that, and that's a big honor, especially coming from Adam. He is a top-notch person and a wonderful human being. Just as much of an honor, I'm father of 12-year-old twins, and we moved down to the San Diego area when the twins were 1 year old. So the most of their life has been down here, and they keep me at my toes, but I love them. And I showed this to my wife, and she wanted to make sure that not only my father of twins, but I have a wonderful wife. And that is absolutely true, but I'd be remiss if I did not call that out. I love being outdoors and grilling. We talked a little bit before, I love just being at the grill, doing camping, all kinds of things. So if I'm not working on dashboards, you can find me outside making ribs or brisket or whatever it is. And something that some people may not know about me, I love the Spice Girls. When I was in high school, they hit the scene, and as embarrassing as it is, that's one thing I love. And I even found a Spice Girls doll so I can embarrass myself on all the people that are present at the meeting right now.
Don't be embarrassed, man. There's millions of you.
A good company too. My contact information is below. My LinkedIn, my Twitter. I'm very active on there, and then my email. Please feel free to contact me anytime. I love meeting and helping people, and that's why we're here. So with that said, the agenda, go through announcements. It's a live meeting. There's not very much of us right now, but as more people come in, make sure you're on mute when we have our presentation. When we're not, and we're not screen sharing, please feel free to unmute, be in a gallery view, show your picture, and after we get to the end of this, we'll have some time to chat if we have time. Also want to call out, if anyone is looking for work or hiring, you can put it down in the chat or reach out to anyone. We want to, in San Diego especially, want to be sure to help each other, and everyone is hiring, especially with all the layoffs that have happened recently. Or, if you're looking to work, please reach out to myself, to anyone here, and we'll help each other. Another announcement, we're planning 2023 Tug events. Shout out to Jamie. I've bounced some ideas off her at the end of the last year and earlier this year. Anyone that would like to help, has some time just to bounce ideas off each other, looking for places, let me know. more help the merrier. And in that same vein, looking for speakers, and then where we can have meetings when we do have them in person. Don't be shy. And then at the end of this meeting, I have a survey. I'll drop it in the chat and then also in an email when we wrap it up, and you'll see that. If you could take a few minutes, answer some of the questions, it will just show what everyone's interested in and how we can try to tailor, whether it's virtual, hybrid, or in-person meetings, make them the best we can. And I just went through that. We're looking for help in planning events, speakers, places where we can have the meetings. We'll see how it goes. Again, reach out to me, and we'll get it done. And for those of you that are watching this on video, the best of the best are here in San Diego, or at one point lived in San Diego, as Jim could tell you. And with that said, we will hand it over to our featured speaker, Jim Dehner. He's a 6-time Tableau Forums Ambassador, 2-time Tableau Visionary, co-founder of the Tableau Newbie User Group, and the co-lead of the Nashville Tableau User Group. Let us welcome our featured speaker, Jim Dehner.
Okay. Thank you, Luigi. I'm going to just share my screen and we'll get this thing started. Whoops, push the wrong button, Jim. There you go. You think I'd know how to do this by now. Okay. Hi, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about dynamic visibility zones. And if you're not familiar with these, this is a feature that was introduced in 2023. And I'll tell you what, I just love them. It's a way to make your dashboard interactive. It's a pretty easy way to make your dashboard interactive, much easier than the methods that have been used in the past to do sheet swapping and popping views in and out of your dashboards. First, just a little bio about myself. As Luigi said, I'm a 2-time visionary and a 6-time forum ambassador. If you've ever been out on the forum and got a question answered, there's a pretty good chance that I might have answered it, or at least I might have met you out there. I do co-lead the Newbie User Group, and that's if you know Klaus in Germany. Klaus and I are the leaders of the Newbie Group. And if you know somebody who is relatively new to Tableau and they want to enhance their skills, I recommend joining the Newbie Group. We meet every 6 to 8 weeks, and the group was founded because Tableau learned that very often new people to the Tableau community are a little hesitant to join user groups. Maybe they don't feel like their skills are up to that same level. But the Newbie User Group is made for people new within like a year's worth of experience. It covers our meetings cover all the Americas, North America, South America, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So we cover a broad segment of the world. I also co-lead the Nashville Tug, and just like the San Diego Tug, it's a smaller group of people, but we're people who enjoy using Tableau and live and work here in the Nashville area. Kind of important to know that I'm not a data scientist. And if any of you are data scientists and you hear me say something that you go, well, geez, that doesn't sound right, please don't embarrass me by bringing it up. Actually, I'm an engineer, and I got my training in engineering, and I've also got a business degree, and I spent most of my professional career managing business units and managing product lines. I live in Nashville. And I live in Nashville because these 3 of my grandchildren live in Nashville, and we've lived here in Nashville for 7 years now. Absolutely love it. And we were talking to David before. It's a great community to live in. I will tell you that I used to live in Poway, and this guy was actually born in Rancho Bernardo Hospital when we lived there. and absolutely love San Diego, but now we do enjoy Nashville. I have another son, and his family live up in Seattle, Washington, and I have a now 3-year-old granddaughter, this little princess here, who wraps grandpa on her little finger, up in Seattle. So we do get up there once in a while. And people ask, they say, well, you know, what do you have interest outside of doing Tableau? I'm a triathlete. And I think I still get to claim to be a triathlete, although I haven't raced certainly since COVID hit. And I do have 3 Ironman finishes. So I think I still get to claim it, even though for the most part, I only ride bikes now. So, but I do enjoy it. Let's talk about dynamic zone visibility. Well, first of all, what is it? You know, it's a feature that was introduced in 2022.3. So it was introduced middle of last year, and it allows you to show or hide objects on your dashboard. And you're probably saying, hey, Jim, you know, sheet swapping has been around forever. Well, it makes sheet swapping very easy, but it's not limited to just swapping worksheets. You can show or hide anything on your dashboard, be it worksheets, filters, legends, containers, nested containers. And we're going to go through some of that today, and we're going to show you how you go about setting them up and how you use them. We're going to have some use cases to look at. I want you to keep in mind 3 components. First, the dynamic zone visibility is triggered by a Boolean expression. It's an expression that returns a true or a false. Okay. I guess the data scientist people refer to that as a Boolean expression. I call it a true false expression. So you have to have an expression that you put on the individual worksheet or the sheet that you're going to make disappear or be visible. And all the setup for the dynamic zone visibility happens on the layout tab of the dashboard. And if you're like me, the layout tab of the dashboard is something I very seldom use, or at least in the past, I very seldom use it. Now I use it a lot because I just absolutely love using dynamic zone visibility. Well, let's start with the most basic way of using a dynamic zone visibility. And we're going to create this chart. I got to move something here. If you've ever presented on one of these things, you got these little pop-ups that kind of hide things, and they're always in the wrong place. We're gonna create this chart. It's a very simple chart. I've just got here. I've got some dates, and I've got sales, and I've got it by 3 categories: furniture, technology, and office supplies. If you're familiar with Superstore data, those are the categories. And I've also got a parameter here where we select a category, and we're just going to do some sheet swapping, but we're going to do it a different way. And this is set up so that if I want to see office supplies, I can select office supplies and I just see office supplies, or furniture and I just see furniture. Or if I wanted to see all of them, I can call back and see all of them. Now, to create this chart, I had to have 3 different worksheets. I had a worksheet for furniture, I had a worksheet for office supplies, and a worksheet for technology. And you're probably saying, well, this is awfully familiar. This sounds an awful lot like what we do when we do sheet swapping. But there's something a little different about the approach. And with it, we need a Boolean or a true false expression that we put on each one of these sheets. And this expression does nothing more than it says, hey, when I take this parameter, this category parameter, and when it's equal to furniture, return a true, or if it's equal to all, return a true, and if it's anything else, return a false. So it's either a true or a false. And then I do the same thing on office supplies. And of course, that would say, you know, if the category is office supplies, return a true. If the category is all, return a true, or just return a false if it's anything else. And we do the same thing for technology. So we come back over to our dashboard. And what I've done on this dashboard is I've created a horizontal container. And this horizontal container contains those 3 worksheets. Okay, and if we were to look at that horizontal container, we see I've got the 3 worksheets sitting in the container. I've got furniture, technology, and office supplies. Okay, now each one of these worksheets is an object in itself. And we can make that object either visible or invisible using dynamic zone visibility. And on the layout tab for each one of these worksheets, we'd go up into this corner here, and you can see that we have an option of showing the title or not showing the title, or controlling whether this view is visible. And the Boolean, the expression that controls that, or the true-false expression, is what we looked at before for the furniture to furniture true-false. And we find it here by going to this, going down to sample superstore, and that's where we created the expression for furniture true-false. And we did the same thing over here for technology, and you'd look and you'd see the technology. And then, as you would guess, we got the same thing over here for office supplies. Okay. And that's what makes each one of these containers, or each one of these worksheets, visible within the container. And the container itself, if we just open up the container and look at it, the only thing we've done with the container is we just evenly distribute the contents in the sheet. So by changing the parameter to office supplies, we now see only the office supply sheet, or the technology sheet, or the furniture sheet. And if we see all, we get all of them. Okay, you're probably saying, well, yeah, I've done this before. It's just sheet swapping. There's nothing really special about it, except if you've done sheet swapping, you've got to set up a lot of different, not just parameters, but you've got to set up a lot of different filters to make that happen. Well, let's take the next step. And what I'd like to do with this next step is I'd like to look at this chart. I've got the same three charts down here in the lower portion of my container, and I have a horizontal container, okay? And in the lower part, I've got the same three charts, but in the upper part, I've added an additional chart. And I just chose a box and whisker chart for each one of these. And I have to create each one of those charts individually. So I create a box and whisker chart off of the furniture chart. And you'll see it's got that same Boolean true false in it. This is the same Boolean that we saw before. So when the category equals furniture, it's going to be true, or if it equals all, it's going to be true. And we're going to do the same thing over here on office supplies. And we're going to do the same thing over here on technology. Now I've done one additional thing here, and I've come back, and we're going to see how this works later, is I've added another parameter in here. And this parameter is to select a date level. Sure. And we can select a date level at either the year, the month, or the quarter. And my axis here, my x-axis, if you will, or what I've done on columns, is I've placed a parameter-driven date level. And all this does is I use the date level from the parameter for the level within the date trunk. And this expression, date trunk, imagine it says date trunk year order date, is going to return the first day of the year for each one of the orders. And then I just convert that to a date. Date trunk actually returns a date time. And I convert that to a date. Or if it's a month, it'll return the first date of the month, like, you know, February 1st or March 1st or so on. And if we look at the quarter, the first date of the quarter would be January 1st or April 1st, for example. Okay, and I've added that in here to add a little more, make this a little bit more dynamic. Now, each of these furniture, for example, is enclosed in a container inside the horizontal container. So I've got a container inside the horizontal container. I'm just going to open this up so you can see what it is. Inside the horizontal container, I've got now this container, and that container includes both the box chart, box and whisker chart, and it contains the line chart. And now this container, not the individual charts in there, but the whole container now is made visible or not visible by that furniture true false Boolean that we calculated earlier. And this whole container, which is the office supplies, has the two charts in it. And that whole container within the container is now controlled by this true false based on office supplies. And as you guessed it, this last one, the technology, has the two charts in it, and it's controlled by that same technology true false. So now when we come in and we can say, well, okay, fine, I only want to see office supplies, for example, we can look at office supplies and we get the two charts that you see there. Now, I've also got this other parameter where I can change this axis. I can change the axis. We can stop looking at years and we can start looking at the month level, for example, and we can see months and we can see the chart in months. And that's not affected by our parameter that we use to determine what category we're going to look at. If I want to come back, I want to take a look at technology, for example, we can look at technology and we're still seeing it at the month level, or we could come back and we could see it at the quarter level. So now we have these options where you can provide for your user. You can say, well, you can see the chart as you wanted it at different date levels, or you can decide which category you want to see, or once again, you can see all categories and you can see them all at once. Well, the dynamic zone visibility allows us to change the chart to see different objects that we want to see, or make them visible or not visible. This other parameter controls the axis that it's built on. Well, I kind of like that, but to be honest with you, I don't like opening up these boxes and looking at drop downs and trying to make decisions based on the drop downs and what to see and what not to see. What I'd like to do is to use and I've got to move something again. What I like to do is I like to use a parameter action to change the parameter value. And I've done that, and all I've added here is I've added a chart that's based on category, and I've got category sales, and I added that to the chart. And then we created an action, a parameter action, and it's this first one up here, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. If you're not familiar with parameter actions, they give you a lot of flexibility, ability to do a lot of different things on this. We come down here, and all it says is on this chart, the overall sales category chart, that's going to be the chart that drives it. When I select a category here, change the select category parameter to the category that you selected. And a very important part here is when I deselect that category, reset everything to all. So the parameter becomes all. And now what we've done is we've taken this chart, and I can come up here and I can select furniture, for example, and we can look at just furniture. We can look at just technology, for example. Or if I deselect everything, I unselect everything, we're looking at all categories. Now, this just provided your end user just a whole lot of flexibility, and it's pretty easy to understand how to do this thing. You can look at the year level, or you can look at each one of these categories individually, or once again, you can look at all. Well, you kind of get the idea about how dynamic visibility zones work. Let's take a look at some other things that we can do with this. I'm just going to slide this over a little bit. Now, I like to use a chart like this. Whenever I make a chart like this, and I want to look at state level data versus national level data, I like to use a map as a way to navigate, not just around the country, but also to change the charts around. And I'm going to show you how I did this. I'm just going to show you where we're going. You want to look at the state of California, you can come up here and select the state of California, and all these charts change so that we're looking at the state of California. Or we can look at the state of Tennessee, where I'm from. And we can look at the state of Tennessee, and we can release that. Look here also, I've got in here, I've got a way of selecting a view, a different type of view. We're looking at a bar chart, for example, or I could look at a line chart. And this is where the dynamic zone visibility comes. We can look at a text chart. And I want to show you how this is done. And this is done a little different way. And we're going to build upon it just a little bit later. But let's see where we started. We had to have a text chart, and we had to have a bar chart. And along with that bar chart, we needed a way to sorry, I'm looking for a certain, there we go, right here. We needed to add that Boolean trigger again. So we come back, and my parameter, this just simply says when the parameter equals bar, return a true, anytime else, return a false. And let's see what that parameter looks like. And all this parameter does, it has 3 values, line, bar, and text. I'm very creative that way. That's why I'm an engineer and not, a copywriter. Okay. And we looked at the bar chart, and as you can imagine, the line view chart kind of has the same sort of Boolean, if that parameter equals line, return a true, otherwise return a false. And the text is the same way. Return the text. Okay. Now here what we've done is a little bit different in the sense that there's one container here. And within that container, I put all 3 of those charts. Oops, I'm on the wrong one. I put all 3 of those charts in this one container. So when I change here to a line chart, we're going to see a line chart, and I can, once again, select California, and we're going to see the state of California, or we can release the state of California and see the entire country, or the state of Ohio, and release that and see the entire country. Okay. I'd like to take that one step further and go to the next level. And that next level, I'd like to make a little change in this chart. I'm still going to use the map of the US for navigation and selecting different areas. I'm still going to use this view to select the view that we want to see, like a bar view or a line view, for example. But I want to add another chart, and I'm going to change this to a vertical container. Now, we're going to do this. The reason we're going to do this is that I've taken we've got a bar chart, and then I've got a secondary bar chart that looks like, there's our first bar chart and our second bar chart. And all I've done is take this bar chart and I look by category, and I'm taking a look at the total count of the customers. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay. So I've got a bar chart, and I've got the secondary bar chart in the same container, but I've got all 6. I've got the bar chart and the secondary bar chart. I've got a line chart and the secondary line chart doing the same thing, counting customers in the same line chart. And then I've got a text chart and the secondary text chart, so that we can see what those actual values are. And I've got all 6 of those in the same container. Okay. Now we can come back and drive each of these charts. The charts individually are tied back to that Boolean expression. I want to make this a bar chart. So we can look at, now we're looking at that one worksheet that's inside this container. And I don't want to be confusing here, but I have a sense that maybe I am. And we're just looking at the bar view. When this parameter says bar on it, that returns a true. And this bar chart will show up, but also this bar chart is triggered by that same Boolean expression. So when I change this to bar, both of these will show up. And I've done the same thing, as you can imagine, for the line chart. We can take a look at the line chart. Okay. And we've got the line chart. And we can see that the trigger for that is a line true false, as we've shown before. And the trigger for this is the line true false. Well, you're probably saying, well, why would you go to all the trouble to do that, to put all 6 of these in the same container? Well, I've got another parameter here. And this is where we start getting into some real flexibility. That other parameter is a true Boolean parameter. I don't know if you've ever used a Boolean parameter. It's just a different data type. You can set up a parameter in a lot of different ways. We've been using mostly string parameters that have text in them. Boolean's just another option. So you select Boolean, and it's going to have 2 values. It's going to have a true value and a false value. And you can change the word or the wording that appears on the chart to something else by using these aliases. And I didn't want to use true and false. I wanted to use show and hide, so that when the value is true, I want the user to see something that says show. And when it's false, I want them to see something that says hide. So I've taken that parameter. And I've got the show hide parameter here. And that show hide parameter is tied back, the trigger on that, the true false on that. And we go down here to parameters. We're taking it directly off the Boolean parameter, the show hide parameter. It's tied directly to that show hide parameter, and it's all 6 of those charts are within that one container. And now we're seeing the chart that we've selected. And now we can make that entire panel and all 6 of those charts disappear in the use, and you can use that space for something else. Okay, I can show all 6 of them. I can look at the state of California, for example. We can come back and change that to a different type of chart, a bar chart, and we can hide the whole thing. Well, now we're adding a whole lot more flexibility into the equation here. Now, I know some people, and we get a lot of questions like, how do you go about doing this out on the forum? Some people like to look at charts, and I got to put this back to show this parameter. Whoops. And what you're seeing is something that the developers are working on right now. There's a bug in the system that created that problem, but okay. And they're clearing up the bug, is what it boils down to. Okay. Some people, and like I said, we do get questions about this. Some people like to show a chart, and then they like to show the actual values that are in that chart underneath the chart itself. And that can be done the same way. All I've done is replace that horizontal bar chart with the text values. And I just created a text chart. It would look something like that for the line chart and for the bar chart, and for the text itself. We're going to place those in the same container just like we did before. And we can look at an individual state, for example, or we can look at all the states, and we can see it as a bar chart. We can see it on a line chart with the text underneath it, and we can hide the whole arrangement, or we can show the entire arrangement. Okay. Now, another question that comes up repeatedly with out on the forum is people would like to be able to see the legend and see the drop-down filters and parameters when they want to see them, and hide them when they don't want to see them. Now, we can do that the same way we worked this last show hide, using the same show hide parameter. But now I placed it on a container, and in that container, I placed the legend, I placed this other parameter that we have where you select a date level, and I've selected the category because we don't need it. I've got a parameter action right here that's going to drive that the selection of the category. And maybe the first few times the users come out here, they want to see this, but after they get used to seeing it, they really don't want to see it anymore. They don't need to see it anymore. So I can hide that whole container. The whole container is gone. The legend's off. We know what the colors are associated with. We don't need something over there to associate the colors with the different categories. The parameter action works so that we're only looking at furniture or office supplies, for example, or all. So we really don't need to see that anymore. I got one more example, and then we're going to open this thing up for questions, and we can talk about them. I know that sometimes you end up making a dashboard that's got a lot of instructions to it. You end up having to tell people how to navigate the dashboard, how to make changes on the dashboard, and it takes up a lot of real estate. I know when I first started, I don't know if any of you did Makeover Monday. An awful lot of what we talked about on Makeover Monday was where to put instructions, the user instructions, so that they knew what to do, and also don't let them get in the way of the message, if you will. Well, we've got another option here. Now that we've got dynamic visibility zones, you can take all those instructions and put them on a sheet. And all I've done is create a sheet here, and I put some instructions on here for the user so that the first time they come out, they know there's a couple parameters and how to use those. And I've also created a show instruction parameter here, and it's just another Boolean parameter. It's true, false, and I want it to say true or false. And I've taken that and I've placed that over in a floating container over the top of the dashboard. And I've got my Boolean parameter here, my true, false, it says show instructions and yes or no. And the first few times a user comes out here, they might need those instructions, but they don't want to see them after that. And now they can hide the instructions forever and they don't have to see them anymore. They're gone. And we don't have to figure out, if you've ever had to pop sheets on and off a dashboard before, there used to be a lot of math involved. And Luigi and I were talking about this earlier, that there was a lot of math figuring out how to move them off the screen and moving them on the screen and putting in blank containers and invisible containers, and just an awful lot of work. Now it's just simply putting in a Boolean yes, no value, and you want to see the instructions or you don't want to see the instructions. I went one step further and I included that in the same container that has the categories in them, and this parameter, and also the select category parameter. And if we want to hide that, we can hide the entire category so we don't have to see it anymore. Okay, that's what I wanted to share with you today. I wanted to talk to you about this feature that was developed and introduced last year. And as a feature, it allows you to not just show and hide worksheets like you could do with a sheet swap previously, but it allows you to go one step further. You can hide or show any object on your dashboard. At this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to come back, and if there's some questions, or if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them at this point. And they can be on what I talked about, or they can be on anything else that we talked about also. I see nobody wants to raise their hand.
I have a comment, and maybe this is a question. We're not on this exact version, and I'm not too familiar with sheet swapping. I think we're on 2021.2 or something like that. We're about ready to upgrade here in the next few months. But one of the use cases we have, and it's an old one and one that we'd like to be able to do better, is for various reasons we have users or customers or people we're reporting on that don't have any data, and we would like a nice graceful little message that says, there isn't any data here, kind of thing. And this seems like the exact kind of thing you can do with this.
Thank you for asking this question, Eric, because we see it all the time. It comes up in a couple of different ways. Either the user didn't have any data in the first place, or they filtered down to a point where all of a sudden all the data has been filtered out of the data table for that worksheet, and the screen just goes blank, and they don't know what to do. Okay, and yes, this is a great way to do it. What that last bit I showed, where you had this instruction sheet, and the instruction sheet, pops in and out, and I did it with a parameter. You can simply, instead of using a parameter and doing a true false on a Boolean parameter, you can write an expression where, let's say you were counting, let's say it was a timeline, and you were to count the days, if you will, or count the dates. And if that date equals 0, okay, then the sheet that you would see is that sheet that pops out, that instruction sheet that pops out, and it says, oh, you didn't have any data, or you over-filtered the data. Reset your filters. You filtered all the data out of the data sheet. And as long as that doesn't, as long as the count of the dates does not equal 0, that sheet won't show. So you're right, it's exactly the same situation. And it's pretty easy to do it. And where before, and you could do it the same way before, but you had to do it with a sheet swap, and it was much more involved than something as simple as the dynamic visibility zone. So that making sense here? Okay. David, Jamie, any questions?
Have you found any limitations with this new feature that something that you couldn't do that you really want to be able to do?
Yeah. And that's a great question. I don't know that I've used it enough to run into the brick wall, if that's what you're asking. And I've certainly used it. And if you know what I do on the forum, I answer a lot of questions on the forum. I answer an awful lot of questions on the forum. But the last few weeks, I've been instructing people to use this same procedure when they get. Typically what happens is they get in trouble doing a sheet swap. I don't know if you've ever done a sheet swap.
Yeah, I have done sheet swap, but I haven't used this new feature because we're using an older version of Tableau. Yeah,
where people get in trouble with sheet swaps is they've got a very complex dashboard. And what they want to do is they want to use a sheet swap to change, let's say, 3 different worksheets in the dashboard all at the same time. So if you've used that sort of thing before, you've got filters and you're trying to apply the filters on those 3 different worksheets at the same time. And then you're trying to figure out how to drive that, either using a parameter or some other trigger to swap out those 3 sheets at the same time. This is so much easier because using this, using a Boolean trigger like we laid out, I can place that directly on each one of those sheets, or I can place it on an object within the sheet, and I can make the object disappear, or I can make the entire sheet disappear. The place I've run into trouble with this, and you may have picked up on it when I did this and when I did the presentation, is I wanted the first set of parameters where you pick the category. I wanted to see the category, or I wanted to be able to take all. I wanted to see all the categories. And to do the all, I also had to add a filter onto the sheet itself. You wouldn't necessarily have to have the filter on the sheet if you didn't have this all feature in there. If we were just working with the category, I could make the sheet disappear, or I could make the sheet appear. But when I wanted to go to all and have all three, the technology, the office supplies, and the furniture appear all at the same time, I had to add that filter back in, and try as I might to get rid of that filter, because I didn't want the filter there.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to have to explain this, Jamie. You're
Sorry.
just messing me up here. But I didn't want to have to explain it. But I hit the wall on that, and I could not find a way to avoid doing that. But I found a way around it.
Yeah, there's always workarounds, right?
Well, workarounds with me is a four-letter word. You know, I get these questions. Somebody will write this very complex question, and Eric, you might have. This gets directly to what you were talking about before, when all of a sudden the screen goes blank because they've overfiltered the data. Well, the solution to that, if you can't just tell them, "Hey, you overfiltered the data, you made a mistake," the real solution to that is they need to scaffold the data. And they have to put records into the data set to represent those areas that they filtered out, if that makes any sense to you. And people don't like to do that.
Right.
But the usual question I get is, well, what's the workaround? Well, the workaround is you go back to your source data, and you put the records in at the source data, and then they don't want to hear that either. So is there always a workaround? Yes. Is it what you want to hear? Not necessarily. Amy, what part of San Diego do you live in?
I live in Rancho Bernardo.
Rancho Bernardo, okay. Yeah, I can remember, okay, I can't tell that story. I can't do that. Okay, but yeah. No, I loved living in San Diego when we lived there.
Yeah, it's a nice place.
You know, I can tell this story though. My son, my eldest son, who was born out there, he's a doctor, okay. In his last year of residency, he went out to San Diego for the first time, and he was sitting in a place that overlooked La Jolla and having lunch, and he picked up the phone and called me, and he said, "Why did you leave?" You know, what got into your mind? Why did you leave? But I leave it at that. Any other questions on anything?
Not for me.
Any performance issues with any of the dynamic zone visit? It seems like it went really quick in all the use cases that you presented.
Great question. As an engineer, I don't care about that kind of stuff. I leave that up to the IT guys. But I have heard, I saw some questions come up the other day about buttons and using buttons, creating some performance issues. I have not seen any questions come up about just using, simple action filters or parameter actions or parameters directly. That doesn't seem to affect the performance. So please go out, try to break the thing. And I mean, a lot of other guys have been out there trying to break the thing too. And I just love them because I use a lot of sheet swapping. And for me, this is so much easier than sheet swapping. It just makes it very easy to not just to swap the sheets, but like I said before, you get into these situations where you want to change three things on the dashboard all at once. And sheet swapping, it just gets very cumbersome trying to do that sort of stuff. And you do get into performance issues with that. I've had some questions on actions and parameter actions and filter actions and the sequence that those things get processed in. And that will create some problems that I think you can get around using dynamic visibility. A question comes up. when you're using a filter action and you really want to apply it in context. But if you understand the order of operation, what happens in creating sets and LODs and top end, and this is where you see it. You're trying to do top end and you're trying to do LOD expressions, and then you're trying to do a parameter action or a filter action at the same time. Within that one step in the order of operation, there's actually substeps. And if they get out of order, it doesn't work. And the devs know about it and they're working on it and they're trying to work on that. But you can hit a very strange situation where all of a sudden it doesn't work the way that you wanted it to. So, but performance, not so much.
Yeah, it looked great, and like others, when we upgrade server at work to the current version, it's going to open up a lot of things where we've seen performance issues with the sheet swapping, especially a bunch of different views. But this is a lot of very useful for personal things, and yeah, I'm excited about this feature. I know a lot of people are too.
What version are you on?
At work, 2021 something. Like
we got to get off of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're planning that first quarter this year. So gonna get off of that and to work current version.
I'll just put a plug in here. If you think about a couple of things that happened in the last year, layering, map layers, and map layers being able to use multiple data sources and in a single view with map layers, and the dynamic visibility zone. It's really been focused on giving your user more flexibility and giving you more flexibility to provide to the user so that they can drive the dashboard and make views do what they want it to do. And I can just tell you this as a guy who answers a lot of those forum questions when we talk to somebody and they say, well, how would I go about doing this? And you tell them what to do, and then they say, it didn't work. And they say, oh, I'm on 2021, and you go, oh my gosh, you're missing so much.
Exactly. On my home machines, I have the latest, and then sometimes you get into where you have to, that's right, you have to translate back into what will work on when you're publishing to internal server. And
I don't want to get involved in that. Okay, Luigi, if there's nothing else, we can, and you've got, I would like to put in a plug for TC23. If you haven't signed up, if you have the opportunity to go to convention, please go, enjoy yourself. It's a good time. It's a tiring time, but this will be the fourth one that I've attended live, and then of course the two virtual ones we attended those also. But it's always a good time. And if you're there, stop by the community village and look me up, because I'll be around there.
I echo that. The conference is the greatest time of year, and well worth it. It was good to get back last year, and I hopefully others here can make it. There's some great deals at Luxor if you're looking for affordability. I know a lot of people have gone that route, and definitely go if you can make it. I'm going to be there hanging out with Jim and talking about all the great food that we enjoy.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to make it, but haven't gotten approval from my boss yet. Working on that.
I can tell you this. I can tell you this. You probably saw that it was announced there was going to be a 2-day conference, and then they got a lot of feedback that says, no, we really need 3 days. And they said, okay, fine, we're going to make it a 3-day conference.
I thought last year was a bit short, 2 days when I was there.
Part of putting that 3rd day in was to increase the number of presentation slots for guys like us to do technical presentations, how-to presentation, use case presentation. The sense from the visionaries and from the ambassadors was, guys, we got to put more content into the conference, and the third day allowed them to do that. And they haven't made decisions yet. Last Friday was the last day for submissions for presentations, and then sometime probably in another 3 weeks, we'll find out what the presentation is going to be, and then we'll find out what presentations made the cut, and then they'll worry about scheduling them and laying those things out. But the whole purpose, and tell your bosses, Jamie, the whole purpose of that third day was to put more content in there and bring more technical and how-to presentations.
Yeah, I've gotten
Klaus
approval
and
the
I-
last few years, so I'm hoping.
Okay, yeah, Klaus and I very much want to do a presentation for the newbie group, because the newbie group has been very successful. We typically have on a newbie call somewhere between 400 and 600 people, and we do it as a webcast. But it's obvious that there's a lot of people in that. If you want to think of that as a cohort, there's a lot of people in that cohort that are just like, can't get enough information. I can't get enough information. So now that by adding that third day, we hope we hope we have the opportunity to do that. So just sharing with you. I think I could share that. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, it's just between us group and whoever happens upon the recording that gets sent out.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. I thank you for your time today. I very much enjoyed talking to you. Luigi, my wife said I can speak in San Diego anytime you want, but the next time I have to do it live in person, and we have to find a meeting place in San Diego to do it.
Anytime you're here or you want to plan on it, love to see you hang out. We'll have some barbecue. We'll get the group together and it'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Really wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And before I close, let me open the presentation and just end it for those that may watch the video on how to reach the group. But again, Jim, thank you so much. Honor having you here. Let's see here. So we had the Q&A. For keeping in touch, we have a LinkedIn group. You can search for San Diego Tug. We have a Twitter handle, SD_Tug. I've seen both hashtag SDTug or hashtag San Diego Tug. Open to suggestions, and also be on the lookout for emails to come out so we can keep in touch and for getting involved in future meetings. And that concludes the presentation. Again, Jim, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time.
You can send out the presentation that I sent you a copy of the presentation. You can send it out. It has all my contact information on it. And if you have any questions, come on out to the forum. You can ask out there, or you can contact me directly.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'll end the recording here. And thank you, everybody.
Okay. Good night, everybody.